the topic about today starts with a question. What if I told you that there was an internet dozens of years older than the internet that we actually use? It was always up to date, trustworthy news, less to known advertising, and most important, free to use. Well, actually, that internet existed and existed for more than 40 years, and it was called Teletext, which, in a sentence, it was a standard for transmit data through television screens, and basically was a framework that allowed different broadcasters to create their own news and service platform. So it was a baby internet that allowed users, people watching televisions, to get news and got the content that they wanted when they wanted. So a prototype of the actual internet. A quick poll for the people on YouTube and also in the audience. Of course, I won't see you, but happy to answer. Have you ever used or heard about Teletext? And if not, there's high chance that you either didn't spend your childhood in Europe, or, well, you're born after the 2000s. In the second case, good for you. But, well, let's have a little explanation how it works, Teletext. And I'm keep notice that I'm using the present because it still exists and still used. So basically, picture yourself watching television in the 90s, and you wanted to get some news around the topic that you are interested in. Today, we're just grabbing our phones. Well, back in the days, you're hitting the text button on your remote controls, which it's something that is still there, even in the remote controls from your modern smart TVs. And boom, immediately you were getting the teletext from the specific channel you were watching. And you will keep hearing the sounds in the background. But the most important thing, you get an index, and you know, or you will read which page has the content you are interested in, and you will just input a 3-digit number on your remote control, and the teletext will load the things that you want to read. So basically, teletext offered a wide range of content and expanded the news operation from the public service broadcasters in all Europe and even outside of it. But how it started? Well, basically, it started as a side project for creating subtitles directly on the screen by a lead designer at Philips in the early 70s. The person was John Adams, which, by the way, is not the person in the photo. The person in the photo is James Redmond, that was the director of engineering at BBC, and he was the person that pushed and decided to not use teletext and the technology behind it for the subtitles and for the hearing impaired people, but for all kind of content. So CFAX was born. They put together a little team of 9 journalists, and they started to provide news in teletext, which, by the way, CFAX. So the journalists, the idea of having a service all around news, it was still there. The real technology that moves teletext, basically, it lies in the analog TV signal that some of you have familiarity with. Basically, if you ever saw those frames or those problem between when the signals wasn't perfect, that little black strip between frames, it was an interval that was capable to receive data packages from a central database. So broadcasters start to push data in that little space. But since they don't know which page the user requests, because it wasn't a server, so we can actually, create the request to the server, they needed to broadcast them all at once. But it wasn't a problem because the entire teletext, the entire little internet from BBC, the size of it was just 1 kilobyte. So super performances. And by the end of the 80s, like all the European countries had more and more teletext. Like only in UK, every channel, ITV, Channel 4, had their own teletext. Same in Spain, Italy, Netherlands, Japan. So it spread a lot around the globe. And by the 1991, millions of users see millions of pages every day. And basically, from the conceptual point of view, we are looking at the birth of the second screen, because you are looking at the screen and then you open your teletext and looking for something that you want to read. And this medium remained flexible and consistent for over 40 years. And it still works, it's still there. And since this is a design system conference, I mean, flexibility and consistency are two very important topics. So what was the design system behind Teletext? And just for full disclosure, this is just a proof of concept. Teletext never had a design system or official guidelines. So I just try to extrapolate this from observation. And yeah, we will go through some conventions that we all recognize: patterns, components, tokens, and principles. And starting with patterns, the main two ones that we can recognize, since I already mentioned the navigation, it was all around the 3 digits. And the pattern or the convention created around those numbers was to have the first digit for topics, the second digit for chapters, and the third number for pages. So this creates some muscle memory and even conventions shared across countries around the idea of, entertainment, it's 500, and maybe TV Guide, it's 510, and maybe what movies at the cinema are 520. So people start to create some muscle memory around these ancestors of the URL. And since the navigation was around that URL, that 3-digit, so you cannot overflow to other digit, because otherwise you're just encroaching the 3-digit of another page, of another content. So to overflow the text, basically Teletext allowed to create those carousels on the same page. So every 30 seconds, 45 seconds, the page just rotate the extra content. And since we're talking about limited space, the components for Teletext, they were just this. So the canvas, the text, and the block component. And the canvas was the limited space that I mentioned. It was basically an artboard, 40 by 24 blocks that could host either one letter or one block. And since the block could be divided into 6 pixels or sub-blocks, whatever, with all the possible combinations with colors, at the end of the day, people were able to create some pixel art on this canvas of 80 by 72 points or pixels. It works perfectly. And in combination with the simple tokens that Teletext had, like, colors, typography, and the possibility to make those things flashy or blinking, it was everything designers need, or actually not designers, remember, journalists. 8 colors, which were basically the palette of the analog TV signal, and only 2 font sizes. One letter could either occupy 1 block or 2 blocks in height. And that was it. If you needed bigger text, you just needed to start pixel arting and using the blocks. So a nice workaround. And yeah, the principles. So again, these are just totally made up, but overall, teletext was moved around. The 3 digits, that was the only way to navigate and know where to look for things. The need of let the user know when that content was updated, because then again, real-time news 24/7, it's something that it wasn't there, so never existed before. The idea that every 30 minutes I just go to the page and see the scoring of a football game, it was like pretty new. And overall, this idea of having an oxymoron, like a neutral personality, essentially the teletext was a news tool, so it would need to be reliable and trustworthy. But at the same time, the visual language behind it was very punk, was fun to see. So it created this little dissonance between how serious the medium wants to be and how fun is to read it. And hundreds of people around the globe were able for more than 40 years to create everything from tables of contents, Christmas cards, weather screens, even guides, puzzles, fan sites, and even, I said less to known advertising because you could see some commercial here and there, like this Depeche Mode album commercial. And then what happened? I like this quote from Martin Heidegger around the fact that, especially in technology, we have no patience. And in the late 90s, Super Teletext was born, developed by in the Scandinavian countries. It allowed to have like thousands of pages, better graphic, even hyperlinks, but it was very slow. And most important, late 90s, the internet was already there. So like a villain in a horror movie, teletext keep reappearing every time that they try to kill it, because it was just adapting to other mediums and other formats. For example, in the 2000s, when internet started to do numbers, teletext websites across Europe collect still dozens of millions of clicks. Like this is from the official teletext in Sweden. And even the following decades, when smartphones appears, in the app stores and in the app stores charts, teletext apps that were just mirroring the content from the TV one, they were start to appearing, and they're still used, especially in some specific age spectrums. Without even mentioning like a lot of artists that they find the constraint very fun to use for exhibitions, like Dan Farimond and Raquel Meyers. And I think everything can be still connected to the fact that we are all still looking for a reliable and very neutral news outlet, which also essentially free, which I think it's a little discrepancy with the needs about monetization. But this need is still fulfilled somehow. Like these are not super updated numbers, but 2 million daily page views in Italy and Netherlands, 3 million weekly users in Norway, Sweden, Denmark, and Finland, 80 million monthly users in Germany, and this is in the 2018, so not so long ago. So those are still interesting numbers. But what are the lessons that we can learn from this forgotten medium? Well, first of all, your design system will champion it by tricksters, people that find workarounds, that push to the limits your design system. Well, teletext thrived with this. Like there wasn't one single page of documentation, so every workaround was adopted as a convention. Stay close to the tricksters of your organization, of your company. They will be the one that validate your design system. And then the second lesson is the core toolbox needs to be crazy simple. 8 colors, 2 font sizes, 1 layout, 1 block. I mean, Teletext worked perfectly fine for over 40 years only for this. So if you're trying to reduce the complexity of your basic library, think again. You can synthesize even more, but please don't call it foundation. And yeah, I'm saying something very obvious here. Performances and accessibility are long shots that always pay off, but we all know that. So yeah, I'm not that smart to say this again and again. And here are some, my sources and also my social handles. Yeah, feel free to reach out if you also want to see some nice pictures of my cats. And yeah, I think that's it. So thank you, tack så mycket, and grazie assai.